Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. In this video we're talking about the top 5 reasons why I chose the Helix. Alright, now before we kick off, I do want to talk about a video made a couple weeks back doing kind of a compare-contrast between the Firehawk FX and the Helix. Now the idea behind it was, understandably, there is a large price difference, but it was to help those who wanted to go from a simple platform to a very complex, more of a professional platform idea. Those who had a Firehawk, what to expect, and those who had a unit similar to a Firehawk, what to expect if you were to jump, because with a higher price tag does come more flexibility and more options. So with that, let's go and move forward to the top 5. Reason number 5, IRs. So over the last couple of years, IRs took the DAW whole market by storm. Not having to buy different amps or microphones, and for the home musician, being able to use quality recorded speaker cabs into your DAW and reamp that way was a huge win for musicians. So when the IR whole idea came imported into the Helix, where you can import and download them into the unit and switch them on the fly, or even change them out with a computer, that became a big factor in moving forward of a guitar pedal that I wanted now, and also wanted the options available in the future, because IRs will always be there, and I think they're going to be more of a bigger factor in the future. Reason number 4, Scribble Scripts. So this became a very big selling point for me as well. And every digital unit I've had in the past, I either had an LED light, singular, that turned on when I knew it was on, or I had some type of weird grid matrix I had to figure out of the rows of what was turning on and what wasn't. But being able to quickly look down at a color code and see exactly what pedal it belongs to, or even when I'm using scene setup, to know exactly what part of that foot pedal belongs in the song, whether it's a riff or it's a chorus. It really helps and makes performing on stage way worth the time and money spending on this unit, because now instead of focusing on what type of setup I have for each pedal, or if if I'm getting energetic into a song and I forget where I'm at, those are quick reminders, kind of like those reference monitors to let you know where you're at. And so I think between the colors of the LEDs and the Scribble Script, those two complement each other very, very well. Reason number 3, Snapshots. So for the longest time, I wanted to move forward and purchase a unit that was either the Axe FX or a unit similar to the Axe Effect, because of the idea of turning on multiple effects and turning them off all at once within a given song. This was something I tried to achieve with multiple units in the past, but what wound up happening is I had to switch presets, which inevitably creates a delay in tone, or the trails completely go out. And that's not something you want to have during a guitar performance, or with your band. So when this idea was introduced, seeing how high of a dollar value the Axe Effect is, when a modeler unit came up that was very similar to what that framework was, I was very, very intrigued on the ability. And not only that, I'm a very big fan of Line 6 and how they have those very light click stomp pedals. I think the setup between the Scribble Scripts and the scene setup is a lot neater. For me, the selling point over the LT was that I got to have my guitar chain in front of me, and the change was above each foot pedal, instead of having to choose between looking at my guitar chain or looking at blocks that were filled with color. And so for my eyes, it was just easier to look at that way. Reason number 2, IOs. In my past units, especially in the Firehawk, I was limited on not only the effects loop, but what I could do with in and outs of cabling and routing options. And so moving forward, I did not want to have that limited scope of what I could and could not do. Especially when you came with the idea of having the Helix and having their own guitar chain, and I also have a separate set of pedals that I would like to introduce into that chain. And so having those set in certain particular blocks before or after the chain became an option I wanted to have within the Helix instead of having everything either all in front or all afterwards. Because that was one of the biggest struggles I had with the Firehawk, was if I introduced a pedal, I had to choose exactly where I had it. And sometimes I wanted to change it between shows, so before or afterwards. And that became a very big struggle. So having 4 FX loops in the pedal was huge. Having multiple outlets so I can route different options within on stage and in the studio became a very big win. One thing I've always said throughout the years was that I never want to be limited when I buy a pedal. I want to purchase something for what I need now as well as in the future. And the options on this pedal board was definitely one of those where I could go on a gig touring and have every option I needed when I needed it. Reason number 1, the user interface. So the last couple years, I kind of noticed that the pedals that I purchase, I always compromise on something, whether that be a functionality sense, whether it be a interface that I'm missing, but this one need overpowers this other need. There was always something that I kept compromising, and I always found myself wishing, like, I wish I would have bought the other pedal, or I wish I would have waited for something else to come out that incorporated a need. So when I had the Firehawk, the one thing I liked was the ability of using a guitar chain where I could swap things in out. But I had to have an iPad with me. And a lot of times there was a lag. There was a couple times where I went to hit a pedal patch and the entire thing aired out. That happened a few times, and that was one of the bigger reasons why I wound up looking for a new pedal, which became the Helix, was because that one need now overpowered functionality of the whole thing. But when I had the GNX4 from Digitech, I loved the idea of having mixed amps and warping in cab A and cab B and having a cab C tone. I gave up that option when I switched to the Helix of having 1 amp, 1 cab. And so that was something I compromised on instead of purchasing something like the Pod 500 HD. I also compromised on having an ability to utilize like a desktop editor. And while the mobile app was great, there was a lot of errors with it and latency that became more and more problematic with it. So all of those reasonings started basically overpowering of why I kind of forfeited them when I bought it. So moving forward, I did not want to compromise anything. I knew I loved the idea of having an axe effect because it's a more professionally touring gig. It had a ton of abilities of using IRs, the functionality of it, using scene snaps, all of that stuff. But I didn't like the way it engaged with the user. A lot of people have to dig in the menu to find an option, and when you do, you have to use a rig format as well. So I wanted something that was in front of my face, something I knew that was familiar, but something new. I loved Line 6's interaction as a pedal, and I also liked the idea of color coordinating things. So when I looked at the Helix as an option, it did give me the option of having a screen window, for looking at what's going on, so I could work through my menus. It was no longer in the idea of a singular window with block letters, and I got away from that. I also had the option of solely using the pedal, or if I wanted to use the editor, I could hook up to my computer and use the editor. The engagement between the sensors of touching pedals to turn them on and off was a cool idea and a new idea as well. So, I mean, the company has a way of making new products but making them familiar every time they do it. And so I didn't want to start with a whole new platform. I wanted to go on the basis of, okay, here's a new concept, let's learn how to work this better. And so for that reason, the interfacing between on stage and on home and in the studio, and the need of having a screen in front of me now was there. And so that became the major selling point for, and why reason number 1 I picked the Helix. So after having the pedal unit for a few months now, I can honestly say there's no regrets. There's nothing I compromised on that I wanted. But I can say that though because I've been honest with myself about what I wanted, and knowing that certain options came with the higher dollar value. Even looking at all the different units that are on the market now, the Theta ISP, the Headrush, the Helix, the Axe Effect 8, the Axe Effect 3, the LT. You know, I look at all these options and I can see something that I would have purchased and once again compromised on what I wanted, because whether I'm in the studio, whether I'm recording or on stage, everything I want to do, whether it's interfacing, whether it's connection, whether it's adding a tone, is all included in right when I need it, when I need it. And that was something that I've not had the option in 8 years of having digital units, was having the ability to do whatever I wanted, see it, and have that connection with the piece of unit. I mean, when we think about Apple phones or Android phones, we always talk about the connection between the device. And for me, I am very connected to the Helix because it offers a mobile computer that gives me a monitor, that interfaces with me and tells me what color is what labeling is what. I have the options of relabeling foot switches. I have the option of adjusting chains, interjecting new chains in. You know, everything that I have wanted that, in a sense, mimics the Axe Effect 2, you know, 1, 2, 3, and 8 now. But in my way. And for me, I am no sense a Line 6 fanboy, but I do love the products that they produce. And so for me, my way now has been Line 6 for quite some time. And so I now have something that I've always wanted, which is a Axe Effect idea into a format that fits me. And so if you're honestly looking for a pedal, the Helix may not be for you, but I can tell you for a fact that compromising on 1 or 2 ideas will come to bite you in the butt at some point when you play, because it's going to rear its head once again. And then when you purchase a pedal that's over a couple $100, regardless of what the price value is, whether it be $400 or $1,500, it's going to annoy you because you could have saved that much more and purchased a pedal that you really loved. So thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. Other than that, always feel free to hit that bell and hit the subscribe button. Thanks, guys.